Hello and welcome to True Crime Diary, a light-hearted podcast on a serious subject. Every 2 weeks we look back through true crime stories to discuss an event that took place on this week in history. I'm your host Mark Decana, and with me as always are my friends Jed Lester.
Hello.
And Rue Turner.
Hello.
So the date we're looking at this episode is the 21st of July. And in 1924, teenagers Nathan Leopold and Richard Loeb stood in the dock at Cook County Criminal Court in Chicago to enter a plea in the crime of murder. They confessed to the killing of 14-year-old Bobby Franks, and everyone assumed they would enter a plea of not guilty by reason of insanity. But their lawyer knew they would face the death penalty, so he entered a plea of guilty and argued for their lives.
So they definitely did it?
They definitely did it. They confessed to it.
And they're not mad?
Yeah.
But they're not mad.
But certainly dangerous.
I'm just thinking of the reasons why that would, if sometimes when you admit and confess and your plea is guilty, bizarrely, you can get a better deal. But
yeah, it's almost as if you're rewarded for not wasting the court's time.
I know.
Yes.
Well done.
It's utterly ridiculous, isn't it? It's fine. I did all the moan. Oh, did you? Oh, well done for telling us. Actually, should we break for lunch? It's is that what the angle the lawyer was going for?
Basically, yeah, arguably, if they said not guilty by reason of insanity, they would have to A, prove insanity, and then B, argue their lack of guilt to a jury.
Of course.
Their lawyer decided, look, they're definitely going to be found guilty, and then they'll get the death penalty. The best thing I can do is
because they did it.
Plead guilty, and then at sentencing, argue for a lesser sentence.
So, speaking of someone who has no idea about anything about this story.
Yes.
Well, it's too early for me to ask what happened to them. Sorry. I don't mean in the lead up to that. I mean, they all got killed? Something. But I don't know. I don't know what's going on. Who are they? I literally don't know who they are.
This is a single murder as well, isn't it?
Yes.
It's not the one that they got caught with. This is just the only one they ever did.
And they did it, and they got caught, and they admitted it, and they told everyone, not everyone, the people who asked all the details.
And that in itself seems quite straightforward and simple.
Yes.
So hang on, the only thing about this is the notion of, and this is me not knowing the end of the story, is the notion of coming out with all the it's fine, we did it, here's why we did it, this is the reason we did it, and we did it there and then, and the result was guilty and the death penalty, presumably. Meaning presumably they thought, well, hang on, why did we bother doing that? But
this is one of those that comes under the heading of crime of the century.
Oh, yeah.
That's what it was referred to in the media at the time. So this is 1924, where it makes it to court. So Leopold and Loeb, they were teenagers, 19 and 18, respectively. And basically they were Nietzscheans. They believed in Friedrich Nietzsche's philosophies of supermen. So they felt that societal norms and ethics didn't apply to them because they were above that.
Okay.
Their intellectual superiority afforded them a position above the law.
In their opinion.
They should have gone into politics.
Neitzsche says, out of chaos comes order.
Where are we talking about in the world?
This is in Chicago.
Oh right.
So they were at university. They kind of bumped into each other before, but they really spent time together at university using this concept which obviously went on to be used even more. And it's like this kind of this idea of intellectual or racial or whatever, these other superiorities that obviously flourished in the 20s and 30s, as we know.
Yep.
So they thought, oh, what a brilliant idea. We're brilliant, and therefore we're intellectual superior. So if we was to experiment by committing the perfect crime, no one would bat an eyelid, because even if we were identified, the law doesn't apply to us. So that was their experiment. They were going to commit the perfect crime.
Mm-hmm.
So in order to do that, they decided what they would do was they would kidnap and murder another teenager. That was the plan. And they spent 7 months in planning and preparing what they were going to do. And they pretty much straight away decided that Bobby Franks, who was the son of a wealthy Chicago watchmaker, and Loeb's second cousin, who lived across the street, was the perfect person to put their plan in action with.
It could be the perfect crime.
For people who spent so long planning this, they've made all of the basic crappy mistakes that the dumbest of criminals make when they do a murder.
Yep.
Like pick somebody you know who lives nearby, leaving evidence everywhere.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sorry, before you go on, were they pre-murder and planning? Were they alone in the routes they were travelling down in the teachings of Neitzsche? Was it literally just them two, or was it a burgeoning movement that they'd cottoned onto at college?
Well, Neitzsche was like a late 19th century philosopher. He was well known. This, as I say, this crazy ideas were quite influential in the 20s and 30s. And he wrote a lot of philosophies, but the one that everyone ever remembers is about you've got the superior people, and then there's everyone else, which he referred to as like the botched. There's the masses, and then there's the people who are important. And he said that the people who are important, the laws of everyone else don't apply to them.
I mean, he's got a point. I don't mean I want to be one of those people. If it's just a commentary on social structure. Yeah,
but also he was German, and in a time when there was...
And they loved that.
They love all that stuff. There was, this is a time of... you've had like Franco-Prussian War, and you've had...
Parties.
You've had parties. Lots of parties.
And presumably, judging by their surnames, the Leopold and Loeb were immigrant from somewhere, or parents were.
The family of Leopold was the German Jewish immigrants. Mm-hmm. So yeah, he would have grown up in Chicago.
Yes.
Loeb's father was Jewish and his mother was Catholic. He used to be vice president of Sears and Roebuck, the big American retailer.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So Loeb's father used to be the vice president. He's retired. So they're very wealthy. Both of them very wealthy.
I was going to say, yeah.
Nathan Leopold's middle name is Freudenthal. You'd have thought it'd have been a Freud.
So it'd be Freudian, wouldn't you? Yeah.
Yeah, it's literally his middle name.
Freud, who is he?
Yeah, Neitzsche, by the way, he went mad. They say he went mad, but I mean, he sounded like he was mad all the time.
Yeah, so it does sound like he started off that way.
But basically, yeah, he was committed, I think. So the plan.
Yes.
This is what happened. This is what their crime was.
Why did they have to go to that very, very extreme thing to plan? Why couldn't they have gone via running for mayor, or just something slightly lower brow?
Because running for mayor is on the way to murder.
Well, I know. So you start off.
It's like,
yeah.
You don't, when you want to go and be an accountant, you don't go via lion taming.
No.
You work your way up. What did they work their way up?
Banking.
Through banking.
You come together, all right, fine. You find a like-minded chap whose surname, hey bro, surnames begin with the same letter. Let's hang. And then you go, do you fancy a beer? And what are you doing tomorrow? Do you fancy meticulously planning a murder of the kid opposite? Yeah, I'll go on then. As opposed to, do you want to, I don't know, make some bunting for the next mayoral campaign as an intern?
Yeah, well, it's an option.
They went straight for the big un.
But because they are intellectually superior in their eyes. And look, we're not going to fanny around with nicking a cup of tea. I don't know how you do that.
Yeah, I suppose. But nicking a cup of tea.
We're not going to nick sweets. We're going to go straight for the... it's either going to be a bank robbery or a murder.
Nicking a cup of tea in the UK will get you life.
Thank you.
Yeah. And also, in that, what did you say? It took them... They planned it for 7 months.
Yes.
And at no point in that 7 months did either go, do you know what, should we just do something different? They were on it.
Let's prove our intellectual superiority at debating club.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, at college.
They already think they're better than everyone else.
Yes,
what makes you think that
it's
they
like,
would question their own decisions?
It's all right, fine. You think you're intellectually superior. It's like you don't actually have to prove it to yourself by murdering someone. But
if only you'd been there at the time to talk.
I'm aware that this is why we're talking about it, because two nutters self awarded themselves those titles and then
more than adequately proved their lack of intellectual superiority.
Yeah. Stupid idiots.
But let's put it this way: considering they spent 7 months planning the perfect crime.
Yes.
They were picked up very quickly after it was committed.
Were they really? Yeah. Have we got to the crime?
Well, I'm going to tell you what happened, what they did.
Okay then.
21st of May 1924, They rented a car and they saw Bobby Franks walking home from school and they offered him a ride.
I'm surprised they didn't take a car or steal a car because renting a car is giving money. They're giving money to the man.
Well, not only that, but assuming their actual level of intelligence, they probably did it in their own names.
Yeah, potentially. And why didn't they go, there's the best car in town, we're taking that because we are... the best. But oh no. Hi, is that Hertz? Yeah, have you got a mid-range sedan?
Or go to another town and steal a car.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Anyway, sorry, I've cut in on the first sentence.
Has this car got blood-proof seat covers?
As it turns out, no. And again, they offered Bobby a ride home in this rented car. But at this point, they were less than 2 blocks from his house.
Cool. Yeah.
Would a ride home over there to your house?
Well, the only thing about that is it's 19... I don't know how rich or whatever Bobby was, but it's 1924, and it wouldn't have been, to some people, a car would have been, oh my God, a car. As opposed to,
no, not
I live there.
Not at all. No, they were all relatively well off. So, yeah, I mean, they were, having a car was not exciting.
Not a prob.
Apparently, and this is according to their confessions, Loeb told Bobby Franks he wanted to talk about a tennis racket that he saw Franks using, and he invited him into the car to talk about that while they drove to the house.
Some of the men told me that you're quite a tennis player.
Now, after this point, it gets a bit foggy.
How are you going to...
Sorry?
What are they going to talk about?
A tennis
racket?
Yeah.
How long's that conversation going to last?
Well, just till the end of the block where he lives.
Yeah, depends how nerdy you are about tennis rackets.
Yeah. Got this tennis racket, have you?
We're here. Now, what happened next is interesting because later on, they both said that they were driving and the other one.
They blamed each other for being the driver.
Yeah. Said, I didn't do it, I was driving.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, Franks was hit several times in the head with a chisel.
I thought you were going to say a tennis racket.
No.
Okay.
And this was planned.
This was planned.
Yeah, this is what they chose to do. Oh, a chisel. Yeah. That's the best, most perfect tool for the job.
Yeah.
Wow.
7 months in planning. Let's use a chisel.
No, not the handle.
The one that, because of all the implements in the game of Cluedo.
Yes.
That's the one that everyone goes,
it's got a really small blade.
I mean, if you do it as a downwards, that's...
Yeah. It's not much of a stabbing tool, is it?
No, we're talking about
true. Yeah, a sharp chisel is like a razor blade, but...
Yeah, probably, yeah. Anyway, I wouldn't want to be bonked by one.
No.
I think we're missing the point here.
Did he have when you put your face up against a tennis racket and it's like... and then you take it away and it's like, you've got, don't know... You've got fishnets on your head.
Like when you fall asleep in a sports cupboard.
What? Who does that? Who's ever done that?
How else do you end up pressing a tennis racket to your face?
You just put it on your face. You don't go and
fall
apart from having too many glasses of champagne and strawberries and falling asleep in the sports cupboard at Wimbledon.
That's too...
Which of those is weirder, falling asleep in a cupboard of sporting equipment or just holding a racket against your face for fun?
Hang on, are you saying you've done that?
No, I'm not saying I've done either of those things.
No.
Are you saying you've done that, Rube?
No.
What are you talking about then? Falling asleep in a bloody sports
I
cupboard.
was trying to imagine how one might be in a situation where you end up with a tennis racket pressed to your face.
You just have one and put it on your face.
In Jed's household, you just press it on your
Exactly, you just hold it against your face. Now, I just need to find some sort of cupboard that houses sporting
As one
equipment.
does.
A room? No, a cupboard.
Why a room?
A kind of...
Why a room?
Yeah, exactly.
You don't have tidily your sporting equipment away into a cupboard.
Sports cupboard.
You must have the wealth of Leopold and Loeb if you have a room just for tennis rackets.
I think we're focusing on completely the wrong element of this whole story, the tennis racket.
Isn't that the point of this podcast?
Welcome to Racket Talk.
Off to the cupboard with you now.
Yeah. Anyway, it's ridiculous. I'll lend you a tennis racket. You can try it.
You're all right.
It's like you've got, Zig Zig Sputnik had fishnets on their head.
Yes.
And who else did that?
Like Pussy Riot.
Yeah, exactly. It's a bit of that if you hold it quite close. I don't know why I'm holding my hand up against my face. He had tights on his head.
No, he didn't have tights. He was gagged. He didn't have tights on his head.
What are you talking about?
I'm sorry, I was referring to the crime.
I'm
not
talking about the
tennis
lead singer of Zig Zig Sputnik. He had tights on his head. I won't remember anything about this crime, but I do remember that.
But you remember Zig Zig Sputnik had tights on his
head. He got hit by a chisel, you say?
So Franks was hit by a chisel several times. He was dragged into the backseat and gagged.
Was he using a wooden mallet at the other end, which is the correct hammer to use with a chisel? Not a... What was the other one? Hammerhead.
You can't use a wooden hammer with a chisel. That's insane.
Yeah, you can.
You'll just basically... No, you'll just put chisel-shaped marks in the...
No. That you use the wooden mallet on the wooden handle.
You hit the blunt ends together.
You use a rubber mallet.
Rubber?
You use a wooden one.
Yeah. If your chisel has got a wooden handle, you can use a wooden mallet.
Yeah, wooden mallet.
Or, admittedly, a rubber one.
Use a rubber one, because you get more impact on it than you run with a wooden one.
I think... Anyway, I still don't know what happened.
Anyway, he died.
Oh, okay. Right.
So that's part A of the plan.
Part A?
Sorted.
Yes, of course. Yeah. That's what they wanted to do. Yeah.
They've managed to hire a car.
Yeah, great.
They've managed to abduct someone who lives nearby that they are related to.
With the cunning classic ruse of saying, do you want to look at my tennis racket?
Yeah.
So while they've got the body in the back of the car, they drove to Wolf Lake, which is 25 miles south of Chicago.
Yep.
We got to get rid of that guy.
Okay. Well, at least they went a little bit out of town.
That's true. Yeah.
In order to cover up who it might be, to obscure the body, they disrobed him, threw away the clothes, and they poured hydrochloric acid on the face.
Oh, God.
To remove the features.
All right. Wow.
And on his genitals.
Why?
What?
Because he was a Jewish boy and he wanted to cover up evidence of that.
Why?
But isn't that kind of one of those absence of the evidence proves it? Do you know what I mean? If you, if you remove someone's genitals, then there's obviously something about the genitals which is worth noting.
Yeah.
And there's very little worth noting about genitals other than involuntary mutilation by your parents.
Yeah.
If that's obviously a very extreme way of doing it, but the acid thing. But if I'm trying to picture how quick or what they would be looking at when they did the pouring, what would happen if you...
Hopefully where they're pouring.
What would happen?
What would happen if you pour that on someone, and meaning literally in front of your eyes? Would it...
Yeah, it would start to smoulder and dissolve.
Yeah.
Like immediately?
It would smoke and burn,
Smoke and burning, yeah.
Depending on concentration.
And
hydrochloric acid is the type of acid you have in your stomach, isn't it, to break down...
Is it?
Organic matter.
And you would
it'd be like the fly.
You'd dissolve, would you?
Yeah, it'll burn and melt.
Would you? Yes. Not very nice, is it?
It'd be pretty smelly too.
Would it?
Yeah.
Like...
Yeah, it'd be burning.
Kicks off a lot of smoke.
Putting acid on meat. Not that I've done that.
Yeah.
Yes. Anyway, right, so they're near a lake, done the acid, chucked his clothes.
They went to a culvert by the railroad track.
What's that?
Which is like it's like a little underground, like a water draining.
Yeah, it's a very specific thing, a culvert.
Is it like a sports cupboard? One of them.
It's absolutely nothing
that's
like
quite specific.
Oh, I'm sure you could find a tennis racket in one.
Culvert.
Yeah, it's the culverts are just for getting water like around an obstacle.
Yeah, so that it will drain away.
Yeah,
I quite like. It's quite a good word.
Yeah, it's a lovely word.
If you've ever seen like a pipe opening out into a lake or a river or something,
an open sewer,
that would be considered a kind of a culvert.
Okay.
Or it might be like by a roadway or a railway.
Yeah.
And you want the water to drain away and not smother the road or the rail.
Yes.
You'd have a culvert installed so the water drains away.
Yeah, like a little tunnel under the road. Yeah. That would be the culvert.
The culvert.
They took what was left
dumped his body there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I'm guessing they were thinking that animals and pests would just clean it away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably.
You just leave it where it can't be seen, but where it is still exposed to the outside world.
Although it's
the water will wash the bits away, and the animals will tear it to pieces. I don't know.
Over a long period of time.
I only think that this extended planning that they did had reasoning behind it.
Yes. So by the time they drove the 25 miles back to Chicago, Franks had already been identified as a missing person.
Blimey.
Did they hang on to the body, or did they just pretty much like kill him and drive him?
They waited till night time, but they had to drive the 25 miles. But
okay,
it's taken a while.
He was on his way home from school.
Yeah, so he would have been missing fairly quickly after he not got home from school.
Exactly. Yes. So Nathan Leopold phoned up Bobby Frank's mum. He gave a false name, at least.
Oh, right. Yeah.
He said, "I'm George Johnson." He said, "Franks has been kidnapped and a ransom will follow."
Right. Did she pick up the phone and say, Chicago 7? Would there have been loads?
My uncle had a phone number like that.
Oh, yeah.
It was Ealing 4.
No, it wasn't.
It absolutely was.
Hang on, what?
Because he was the fourth person in Ealing to get a telephone.
No, but his phone number was not 4.
Ealing Town, not the...
Yeah,
no, it wasn't.
You would pick up the phone, get the operator, and go Ealing 4.
No, I think Ealing would be represented by 3 numbers or something in numerical version.
Just tell you it's one number.
Yeah, but
just because you don't believe it.
No, because I'm pretty sure long time ago my parents would say Richmond 2758. Meaning,
absolutely.
Meaning,
Richmond had a lot more phones than Ealing did.
Well, and it was later.
The telephone number for Twickenham is 894.
Yes.
And that's because 8 and 9 and 4 are TWI on the telephone if you have an alphanumeric keypad.
Oh, right. Okay.
So in the early days, they would all be like that.
I was 892. So what does that mean?
Well, it covered the same area as 892, 894, 898. And there was another one as well. I think there was all sorts.
0898.
Hang on. It was before that.
We had 890 was
You had 890?
Yeah.
Oh, anyway.
All sub-boroughs in the greater Twickenham area.
Yeah, sure, yeah. Right, so he's just phoned her. But kids just phoned mum.
Yeah. Then, having phoned her, they sent a typed ransom note in the post.
Sure.
Okay. In the post?
Yeah. Burned their clothes.
Yep.
Cleaned the rented car.
Cleaned it, yeah, of course. Yeah.
And then played cards.
And then did what? Played cards?
And then played cards.
Okay.
And of course, neither of them had an alibi at this point.
No.
Because that's your first thing to sort out, isn't it?
Yeah.
I was playing cards with him.
Rock solid alibi.
So the next day, when the Franks family received the ransom note, bearing in mind they posted it the night before.
Yeah, I was
That's pretty good
posting. Yeah, it is good. Yeah.
We received this morning.
As you can see, it is a ransom note.
But there was 2 or 3 posts a day.
Yeah.
Back in the day.
3 roads.
Yeah.
This is Chicago B.
Once they got the letter, what they did was Leopold, he phoned again and gave the instructions for the ransom payment. Now, he gave them apparently quite a lot of direction, and the member of the Franks family who was going to deliver the ransom forgot the address straight away, so he didn't go and pick up the rest of the directions.
Okay. How much were they asking for?
$10,000 ransom they asked for.
$10,000. Seems a bit low.
$1924.
Oh yeah, forgot. 100,000?
We're going for 100,000, Rue?
100,000?
You can't say the same as me.
Oh, no, I thought that was what you were saying. It
Rue,
was.
have a guess.
10,000, 1920s, 150,000.
Yeah, I'm going to have that. I'm going to have 150,000 as well.
Then you're both incorrect.
Oh, yeah.
It's roughly 170 or a little over 170,000.
Okay.
Wow.
In modern parlance.
They're still kind of opening themselves up to suspicion, I would argue, by doing by doing this method of phoning up the family and demanding money.
Yeah, in fairness, it's not unusual for someone to commit the crime of murder and then afterwards try and get the crime of kidnapping instead. I mean,
it's kind of a way of deferring the crime discovery, isn't it?
I thought of it that way.
You just sort of give people a little bit of hope they think he's still alive, and then they're negotiating with the ransom rather than wondering whether he's alive or dead. Because you assume he must be still alive because they're asking for a ransom.
Yeah. And the longer it takes for the body to be discovered, the less likely it can be identified. I don't know if you thought about that, but it is an option.
Well, they must have. It took so long to plan.
Yeah,
that is true.
Exactly. Now, they gave the directions for, they're going to say, you take it to here, get the next set of directions, take it to here, get the next set of directions. But the family member taking the money to the first location forgot the location. So it didn't get far enough to deliver the ransom.
Okay.
And then
I'd have written it down, but carry on.
Yeah, but after that, Frank's body was found.
Oh, wow. In a... That's quick,
during the delivery of the ransom, they found the body,
Wow.
So they abandoned the ransom.
You mean a body?
No, they identified the body.
Oh God! Wow, that's good. It's pretty good.
Despite having a melted face, melted genitals, and no clothes.
Yeah.
And 25 miles away in a culvert.
Yeah. This is the best example of police work we've discussed, to be honest.
Is it really?
There's found.
That's not saying much.
Yeah, that's exactly. It's what I'm saying. Normally, it's like, what are you doing? But so basically, it's the next day, effectively.
What's the time? Oh, I was going to say, what's the time scale? Literally the next day.
Yeah,
that's very good.
So obviously, they picked the wrong culvert.
Yeah.
They were either very unlucky or that's just the wrong culvert. They should have been watching culverts for the last 7 months.
They didn't stake out some culverts. That's what.
The culvert was not covert.
There it is. So Leopold and Loeb, the typewriter that they used, they smartly destroyed that.
Get rid of that machine.
Got rid of that.
Oh yeah.
And
acid.
They used it by throwing it through a police station window, I assume. No, and the blanket from the car that they'd used to move the body, they burned, and then they just sort of carried on like nothing had happened. Okay. So now the Chicago police are they're offering rewards, they're looking for information. But Leopold, because he knew the victim, he was happy to talk to the police and the reporters, and he would sort of theorize on what might have happened.
Okay.
And he said, he's quoted as saying to a detective, if I were to murder anybody, it would be just such a cocky little son of a bitch as Bobby Franks.
God.
Right.
Oh,
Brilliant.
Okay. Yeah. Well
no, I didn't do it, but if I did do it, it would have been him.
I'd definitely murder him. Yeah.
But also,
okay.
Then another small break in the case. In the culvert, there were a set of eyeglasses, which they had an unusual hinge on these glasses that only 3 people in the whole of Chicago had on their glasses, including Leopold.
Right.
My glasses! Oh no, where are my glasses?
Yeah, these were a very expensive custom-made pair of glasses.
Yeah.
Right.
Of real tortoise shell.
So they can identify something on the glasses, and then somehow a glasses expert said you can only buy those there, and we've only sold 3, and he's one of them.
Yeah, who knew the victim, and
yes,
and
and
said
would have
he
killed him.
boasted would love to murder them.
Yeah. So on May the 29th, this is 8 days after the abduction, they were called in for questioning by the police, sat down formally in interview rooms.
Yep.
And they said that on the night of the murder, they had used Leopold's car. They picked up a couple of women and they dropped them off near a golf course.
Oh yeah.
Later on, and they didn't know what their surnames were, so they couldn't identify who these these alibis women were. They just gave the names of two women.
No, meaning it couldn't be corroborated by
some women. Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
This ironclad alibi.
This ironclad alibi. But unfortunately, their ironclad alibi was, or tissue-clad alibi, was broken wide open when the police asked Leopold's chauffeur about whether they'd taken the car out. And he said, no, I was repairing it at the time.
Sure, yeah, because he didn't know anything about it. So why would he?
Not only did they not drive it, I was looking at it because it didn't work.
Yeah, wow.
You could see why their intellectual superiority was
fell apart a bit.
It fell apart. It called into question. They also found about a week later, they found the typewriter they'd gone to such pains to destroy.
How is that destroyed?
They found it in a lake. They dumped it in a lake, and it was found.
So they just got it wet.
They got it wet. So pretty soon after that, Loeb confessed. He said Leopold. It was all Leopold, and he just drove the car. And of course, Leopold then immediately confessed, saying exactly the opposite, that he drove the car and Loeb was the killer.
Of course.
Yes, naturally.
But they both said that it was because of their Neitzschean beliefs. Leopold had said as part of his confession that he was interested in learning what it would feel like to be a murderer. And he was disappointed that he felt the same as always.
Yeah, sure.
That's the trouble with psychopathy.
Yeah.
You just can't get that fix.
Then it would go to trial. So this is where we came in. Now, what I said at the...
We started, yeah.
What I said at the beginning was, bear in mind, I say going to trial, but of course it's not a trial, is it? At the hearing, they both pleaded guilty. And this is part of their lawyer's strategy. Now, their lawyer was one Clarence Darrow. Now, Clarence Darrow was a very well-known, famous defence attorney. He would really become even more famous the following year, 1925, when he was part of the Scopes trial, where the teacher was prosecuted by the state for teaching evolution. Do you remember that case? The monkey trial?
Oh, God.
Oh, was that the French monkey?
No, that's the monkey they hanged in Hartlepool for being a spy.
Yeah, no, I was confusing the two. Then.
we should talk about that. That's hilarious.
We should.
Yeah,
he's short, he's hairy, he can't speak English, he must be a French spy.
For teaching evolution.
Teaching evolution, yeah.
God, that's awful.
I think in that case, Darrow lost the case and the teacher was given a small fine. That story is the story that the play Inherit the Wind is based on.
Okay.
Scopes trial. So Clarence Darrow, this is the year before that, he was called in to be defence.
Paul Darrow.
Paul, no relation, sadly. The great Paul Darrow.
He was defence, yeah.
He was a defence. He was paid $70,000 to defend Leopold and Loeb.
My God.
God. He got 7 times the amount that they were holding a ransom for.
Yeah.
As his salary.
In fairness, he's going to put more work in.
He said...
yeah, maybe.
He is, yeah. And he said, plead guilty, lad.
Yeah, because, as I say, he contended that if they put in that they're not guilty, a plea of not guilty, for whatever reason, they would then have to prove not guilty by that reason, be it insanity or whatever. And that would not happen. They would definitely get a guilty verdict. If the jury gets a guilty verdict, they're going to get the death penalty. Now, he was a big opponent.
So you may as well speed it up, lads.
Yeah, he opposed the death penalty. So he figured if they put in the plea of guilty, and then he could argue it down to life imprisonment, that was the best course of action.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
That was his theory. Now, $70,000, just for reference, is the equivalent about 1.1 million today.
Oh, wow.
At the time,
well done to him.
At the time, there was a rumor that he was getting $1 million for the trial, but it wasn't. It was way off. It was 70,000. But by today's standards, it's 1.1.
Yeah, he is getting $1 million.
He is getting $1 million by those standards. So there's no trial because they plead guilty.
Sure. Yeah. So how does it work, or how did it work back then? You have a month recess for a month or whatever, and then someone comes up with what they're going to be awarded, prison or death or...
Yeah, what it is that you've got, you put in the plea, generally if it's not guilty, then you'll have a trial, and then you get a verdict in this case is guilty because they plead guilty. Then you would basically have a sentencing hearing to determine your sentence. And then you can argue, why this, why that. Normally that would be concluded in a day. This sentencing hearing went for 32 days.
Wow.
Just witness after witness after witness, psychiatric testimony, mitigation, expert witnesses.
Right, I see what you mean. Yeah.
I thought we'd already determined at that point that they're not mad.
Yeah.
But they all
didn't claim
defence.
There was a lot
witnesses.
There was a lot of defence, yeah. It was nearly all defence, in fairness.
Right.
But they would talk about everything from childhood neglect to dysfunctional endocrine glands. Anything that they could possibly throw into the mix
literally
would lead to delusions of this intellectual Nietzschean superiority idea. And Darrow, at the end, he concluded with what's been referred to as the finest speech of his career. It's called The Masterful Plea, and it was 12 hours long.
That can't have been delivered in a single day or in a single standing. Do you know what I mean? He can't have got up 8 o'clock in the morning and put the full stop on at 8 o'clock at night.
I honestly don't.
He might have done.
He may well have. Yeah, concluded the next day. It says, I know it's 5 to 4, but I'm about to start what could be a 12-hour closing argument. Should we start tomorrow or first thing, or shall I just give you the gist of it now and then come back to it?
Good job I wasn't in the. Would there have been a jury?
No jury. No.
Would there be no public gallery?
There would have been a gallery. Yeah,
probably.
Yeah.
Good job I wasn't the judge, because my mind would have wandered.
What did he say?
After about 10 minutes.
It's surprising he was allowed to continue
guilty,
for that.
Whatever.
You can't. I suppose it was still all in their defence. If it's his closing argument as well. It's not like you can say, redirect. It's not a trial.
Sure, yeah.
It's his closing argument. Basically, he was pleading for their lives. Basically, he was saying, they're young and stupid on the one hand, and on the other hand, capital punishment is a horrible thing. So you can't, very much railing against capital punishment. That was the gist of it. So the judge decided that they would both get life imprisonment plus 99 years for the kidnapping.
He did what he set out to do, basically, to downgrade it to tons of... I'm not suggesting I would choose the death penalty over prison for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
But let's face it, that would have been the only other option. But, it's not the greatest. You murdered someone, so, what do you expect? But it's not the... and they were 18 at the time.
Yeah, 18 and 19.
So,
just kids, really.
Sure. It's a 32-day hearing and a 12-hour speech. At some point, you might have wished they had got the death penalty.
God, well, exactly, yeah.
Be bludgeoning your own head against the desk.
So in 1936, Albert Loeb was attacked by another inmate with a razor, and he was taken to the hospital and died from the wounds. He got 50 knife cuts on him.
So he was about 30 by then.
Yes, so he died in prison, age 30.
Yep.
Now, Leopold, he was paroled in 1958 after serving 33 years.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
Meaning he got out?
He got out.
I bet he had 20 years sleepless nights after his mate had been killed.
Yeah, well, Loeb apparently might have propositioned James Day, the man who assaulted him, might have taken offence. Yeah. That's the suggestion.
Because it was found at the time to be a defensive attack.
Yeah.
Even though Day didn't receive a single injury.
Yeah.
And Loeb received 50 cuts, including a pretty fatal slash across the throat from behind.
Yeah,
very fatal.
It was It was alleged that Day had rebuffed Loeb's advances, but it's more likely that it was the other way around, and that Day killed Loeb because he refused Day's advances. That's the likelihood, but we don't know for sure because only the two of them were there. So Leopold, he became a medical technician at a hospital in Puerto Rico.
Really? Wow.
He died at the age of 66 in 1971 from diabetes-related heart attack.
Wow.
He wrote a lot. He wrote about the birds of Puerto Rico.
Did he continue his thoughts on higher intelligence?
No, he didn't. He did write about...
Nip that in the bud.
Yeah. He wrote an autobiography called Life Plus 99 Years, which came out in 1958.
Yep.
Apparently, he used that account to try and help with his parole campaign. But it's basically he didn't talk about the murder in it. He talked about himself And okay. So it's kind of, everyone sort of thought, well, yeah, this is a bit, he's covering up his past and trying to make a new image from
glossing.
Yeah. It has been mentioned in a bunch of TV shows, or certainly has influenced a bunch of TV shows, but it's probably best known for having inspired the play Rope, which was made into a movie by Alfred Hitchcock.
Rope. This is off the top of my head.
Mm-hmm.
Rope is shot in what I was going to say one take. It's probably not one, but it's probably 3 takes. Sorry, not takes. One long, massive scene with no cuts.
Yes, it's four shots.
It's a brilliant. Once you know that fact, it just makes it so much more brilliant than it already is, obviously. But I love stuff like that. I love noticing cinematic, styles like that. But it's just so great. Is that true? It's done. The whole movie is 4.
It's done in 4.
What do you call
basically
it?
4 shots.
Scenes.
4 shots.
4 shots. Yeah, because it's not one take. They probably did 700 takes.
Yeah, but there would be long takes, and then they just edited together the 4 shots, and it's in real time.
Yeah, it's very much like a play.
It's very much like a play. Yeah, it's true to the play.
So the play basically in real time.
Yeah.
So the play came out in 1929, so a few years after the crime. Yeah. And then Hitchcock made the movie in 1948.
Yeah, it's a great film. Really good.
Yeah, I thought it was all right.
Well, to be fair, I'm mainly looking at the style of making it. Because they could be talking about anything.
In terms of cinematography, it's great.
Yeah.
I like anything Jimmy Stewart.
Yeah, exactly. So
yeah.
I was going to say, there's good Jimmy Stewart in it.
He was wearing large trousers.
As always.
Big pockets.
And that's the most important fact of the podcast.
Such was the fashion.
There are a couple of other movies.
I know there's loads of other films.
Jaws.
To name but one.
Throw Mama from the train.
There's Compulsion and Swoon, but
2.
I can't remember. I think Swoon was just bloody awful, and I couldn't keep watching it.
Leopold tried to stop Compulsion being made.
Oh,
he said it defamed him.
That's tough to do.
He tried to get it blocked, but the court ruled against him because he confessed to the crime, so he couldn't argue that his reputation had been injured because he said he did it.
Yeah,
of course.
You can't say you did it and then say you can't say I did it. You said you did it, so
Yeah, you did it. Yeah.
That's the most notable thing about the film Compulsion. That's all for this time. If you want to know more about what we've talked about on this episode, then just Google it or something. You can listen to all of our previous episodes on our website. That's www.truecrimediary.co.uk. Please remember to leave a review on your podcast provider if you can, or you can email us. That's stuff@truecrimediary.co.uk. My thanks to Jed and Rue and to all of you for listening, and we'll see you again on next date in our True Crime Diary.